Hey guys, some of you may have been wondering what's with the name, right? Most of you know me as Shelley Burkhart, but you may have noticed that there's some funky lettering in my name on social, and if you saw my book, you'll see that it's authored by Elle Hart. So you may be wondering, what is going on here? I wrote a couple blog posts, actually 2 years apart, one addressing my last name and one addressing my first name on my original blog at essentiallyshelley.com. I've shared both of those on my new blog at Feel Empowered Every Day. So I'm just going to give you the quick overview here, but if you're that curious, you're welcome to go to my blog and read about it some more. But I was working in a middle school, and I was going by Miss Shelley, and the assistant principal brought me to another room, and she introduced me as Mrs. Burkhart. And I had just finished going through the process of a divorce after a 25-year marriage. And at that time in my life especially, the last thing I wanted to do was hear Mrs. Burkhart 8 million times a day by all the students. So she told me I couldn't do that. I had to go by my last name. And I explained to her why I didn't feel comfortable. And she said, well, what about your maiden name? Which makes sense. But given the situation with where my maiden name comes from too, with my dad and my relationship with him, I didn't really want to go back. And I felt like I was going backwards in life. For me personally, I was just all about moving forward, just where my mindset was at that time. So I didn't feel comfortable with that either. So I just stuck to my guns and had the kids call me Miss Shelley anyway. But I feel like when women get married, we take our spouse's name, right? We take our husband's name, which was great. I had no problems doing that the entire time. Known as Mrs. Burkhart or Miss B to my kids' friends, no problem at all. But when life changes, you don't really want to hold on to some of that. But I also didn't want to completely break away because it's my kid's name too, and I wanted to stay connected to my kids. So, and then the other weird thing is too is when you do maybe get into another relationship, and so here you are with somebody else, and you're building a life together, and you're going by somebody else's last name. So some of you may feel totally comfortable with this, and that's great. I'm not saying there's something wrong with it. I'm just explaining to you where I personally was coming from. So I decided to shorten it to Hart. My mantra in life is simplify to amplify. That's what I've been working really hard to do with my thoughts, with my emotions, with my behaviors, with my actions, just trying to quiet life down a little bit to make it something big and exciting. I can get into more of that later if anybody's interested. But so I simplified my last name down to Hart. And then with the first name, my given name is actually Rachelle, Rachelle. And that is a very difficult, complicated name. Nobody spells it right. Nobody pronounces it right. So it is, I've always been Shelley my entire life. That's all I ever know is being called Shelley. But when I went to junior high, I thought maybe I'd try to be sophisticated and switch to Rachelle. And it didn't work with the spellings and the pronunciations and everything. So back to Shelley I went. And believe it or not, one day I was at the dog park, and out of nowhere, it just all of a sudden dawned on me. L-E-L-L-E is the ending of Rachelle, and it's also the middle of Shelley, given that my Shelley is spelled E-Y. So I thought, why haven't I become Elle? Why haven't I called myself Elle at all throughout the years? Shelley is a great name. It's a fun name. But again, I'm making some changes. I am trying to build a new life. And I just thought this might be kind of fun. So I told my friend, and he was like, okay. And so he, as a joke, had me called Elle at different times, and I really liked it. I felt like it fit me, and so I decided to, play around with it a little bit. Well, the straw that broke the camel's back was I was at Starbucks, shocker to those of you who know me, and it was during COVID, so it's always loud and chaotic in Starbucks anyway. They had the plexiglass up. I had a mask on, so I get it, but they ask for the name. And I know Starbucks never gets the name right. It's kind of a joke, especially if they write it, but this was typed into the computer. And I get the cup, and on it says Jelly, Jelly. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Jelly? Really? I think it's time to move on. So from there on, I was like, I introduced myself as Elle. If you call me Shelley, I don't care. I'll respond. I have no problem with it. If you call me Shelley Burkhart, totally fine, no issue. But I just thought, let's give this a try. I am in the belief that there are going to be things in life that don't gel with you, that don't work right, and cause you any kind of stress, pain, struggle, whatever it is. Some of it we just have to deal with. It's life, right? It's not all going to be perfect. I don't believe in perfect to begin with. It's not all going to be rainbows and unicorns and roses. I get that. But there are so many things that we do have control over. We can't control other people. We can't control outside situations, but we control things that go on with ourselves. And too many of us don't take the control over the things that we can, and we try too hard to control the things that we can't. And so I am trying to be very cognizant of making sure I take control over the things that I can in life. And my name is one of them. So there you go. There's the scoop on Elle Hart. And if you have any other questions or comments or want to talk about it at all, let me know. Again, you can read more about it on my blog post. I'm sure most of you don't really care all that much, but I've been asked a few times about it, so I just thought I'd address it. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.